Hello and welcome to A Dad Reads with me, David. Now, today's story is a classic, and I did say I wanted to do more of those old fashioned fairy tales, the stories that I used to read when I was growing up. So, today's story is called Rapunzel, and it's a groovy fairy tale, and it's retold by Lynn Roberts and illustrated by David Roberts. So, I guess it's a wife and husband team. So, shall we find out exactly how groovy this fairy tale is? It's a modern day twist, I guess. So, Rapunzel, a groovy fairy tale. In a time not too long ago, and in a land much like our own, there lived a very beautiful girl with the most extraordinarily long red hair. Her name was Rapunzel, and she lived with her aunt Edna and Roach, Edna's hideous pet crow. Rapunzel had been brought up by Edna after her own parents died when she was very young. Edna kept her locked up so she could not go out and enjoy herself. To keep Rapunzel quiet and to make herself seem nice, which she was not, Edna bought Rapunzel second-hand magazines and records and occasionally allowed her to watch television. When you are older, Edna lied, I'll take you out and I'll show you the city, but it's not safe for you to go on your own. Rapunzel believed every word, for she knew nothing of the world. The tower block they lived in was old and deserted. The lift was always broken, and there were hundreds of stairs to the ground. This was not a problem for Edna, as she had a very special way of entering and leaving the building. Rapunzel would hang her plait over the balcony, and Edna would climb down it. On her return, she would shout, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Then Rapunzel would throw her long plait over the balcony. Edna would grab hold, and Rapunzel would slowly pull her up. Aunt Edna worked at the local school. She was the most fearsome dinner lady the children had ever seen. Prowling around the canteen, she would force them to eat every scrap of food, even cold pea soup and lumpy custard. Edna also trained Roach to swoop down and steal things from the children to bring to her. Edna selfishly took all the best things and gave the scarves and jewellery she did not like to Rapunzel, pretending she had bought them. One morning, as Aunt Edna struggled down Rapunzel's hair, a boy who had stopped to fix his bike on the way to school happened to see this extraordinary sight. His name was Roger, and he was the singer in the local school band, Roger and the Rascals. Intrigued, he thought, surely that's the nasty dinner lady from school. What is she doing? After school, he raced back to the tower block. To his astonishment, he heard the nasty dinner lady booming out, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Seeing the beautiful red plait tumble over the balcony, Roger knew he had to meet the girl with the long hair. The next day was a Sunday, and Roger could not wait to go back. Luckily for him, Edna was just on her way to a much needed fitness class. Roger took a deep breath and, trying his best to imitate Edna's booming voice, he called, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. To his amazement, the rope of hair was lowered. Hesitantly, Roger took hold of it, then gasped as he was lifted into the air. As he reached the balcony, he fell over the wall onto all fours. Oh my! Rapunzel exclaimed as she found herself face to face with the most handsome boy she had ever seen. Rapunzel and Roger spent the whole morning listening to music and talking. I feel as though I've known you forever, Rapunzel cried, gazing into Roger's eyes. Every day after this, Roger would wait for Edna to leave and then visited Rapunzel just to say good morning before he went to school. He took Rapunzel to he took Rapunzel a present every lunchtime, and sometimes he took along his guitar so he could sing his new songs for her. She was happier than she had ever been. One day, Roger said, I wish I could find a way to get you out of the flat so that I could show you the city. You can't very well climb down your own hair, and we cannot take the stairs as Edna never forgets to lock the door. Rapunzel thought for a minute. I've got an idea, she said. Why don't we make a rope ladder from all the scarves and belts I have? Together they set to work. The very next day, after saying goodbye to Roger, Rapunzel let down her hair for her aunt. As Edna reached the top, Rapunzel said without thinking, oh, you are so heavy, aunt. It is so much easier to pull up my dear Roger. The moment the words were out, Rapunzel knew she had spoiled everything. Edna flew into a rage. She grabbed a pair of scissors and cut off Rapunzel's long hair. How dare you deceive me, cried Edna as she forced Rapunzel to climb down her own hair. May you never find happiness, she screamed. Seething with anger, Edna waited on the balcony for Roger. Before long, Roger called to Rapunzel to let down her hair and whistled as he was lifted up, happy at the thought of seeing her again. But to his horror, when he reached the top, the ugly, twisted face of Edna leered out at him. You will never see Rapunzel again, Edna hissed in his ear as she pushed him backwards over the balcony. The hair tumbled with him as he fell to the ground. Wrapped around him, the plait broke his fall, but he banged his head and fell unconscious. Meanwhile, wandering through the city streets, Rapunzel grew tired and hungry. She found a stray kitten nearly as hungry as she was and called him Rascal after Roger's band. All her life she had wanted to visit the city, but never had she felt more lonely and lost. Will I ever see Roger again? She wondered, holding Rascal close. Roger, however, remembered nothing about Rapunzel. Dazed from his fall, he staggered home with the hair he had found wrapped around his body. He truly had no idea where it had come from. He put it in his dad's garage, which he used as a studio. It must mean something, he puzzled as he practiced his guitar. Rapunzel slept in a damp shop doorway that night, with Rascal clasped in her arms. As she awoke, stretching her arms and yawning, she caught sight of a poster. Roger! She cried out in surprise. Her beloved Roger and his band were playing a concert at the school that very evening. She would find the school and see Roger again. Rapunzel could barely contain her excitement when she arrived for the concert. She found a space in the front row just as Roger and his band walked on stage to loud applause. Roger looked out into the crowd and, as he began to sing, his eyes rested on a strangely familiar halo of red hair. And when he looked at Rapunzel's beautiful smiling face, he remembered everything. Rapunzel and Roger were best friends from that moment on, and as happy as can be. Roger and the Rascals became very successful, playing at every school in town. Rapunzel, deciding to make use of her glorious red hair, learned how to make wigs. She designed them in every style and length imaginable, as long as they were red. And what happened to Aunt Edna? Well, she no longer had Rapunzel's hair, and the lift was, of course, out of order. And that's the end of that story. So what was your thoughts of that story? It was a bit different from the original story. and a lot different from Disney stories as well. But it was a good story. It had a nice ending, didn't it? So let me know what you thought of the story in the comments. And please remember to like the video and to subscribe if you haven't already. But until next time, bye for now.